so we're gonna go ahead and create a custom niche. And I'm gonna center it on the back wall. And what I plan to do is do an arch on this niche. So this is definitely 100% custom. A lot of times when you place a niche, you want to pay attention to your tile layout, try to get them even with the grout joints. But since this is going to be such a custom type of niche, I'm not really going to be overly concerned about the placement. Typically, I like my niches between 45 and 48 inches off the floor. So remember, we're still going to have a shower pan underneath of this. So I'm just going to set it basically my cut mark at 43.5 off the floor. And then that will, I'll put a 2x4 on top of here for my sill plate. And then that'll get me to 45 inches. So, and then you're going to have your backer board and everything else. So you'll probably be, by the time the pan is in, between 44 and 48 inches to the bottom of that niche. Now you can always, one thing I recommend with the niches is just to make them larger, especially if you're doing something custom, and then you can always build up the bottom sill to raise it to where it meets your grout joints. So if you make them bigger, you can always shrink them. You just can't do it the other way around. So this is going to be our cut mark. We'll go ahead and cut these, and I'm going to center this niche, obviously. So 60 inches, 30 inches would be the center. I was planning on making this about 24 inches wide. It'll be a fairly large niche. You know what, might as well just pull this out. There's no sense in trying to salvage that. Just make the top of our, we'll just make this 30 inches. We'll give ourselves plenty of room so that, because really I wanted the top out around 27 inches on that arch and then have 12-inch compartments. Now obviously the top compartment is going to look bigger because you have the arch. But we'll make it like, honestly, we can even raise it even a little bit higher. We can make it 32, and then I could always build down the framing if I need to. But, you know, it's always harder once you, if you make it too small, then you're kind of fighting yourself. So. Okay, so I'm just going to kind of map this out, make it look. 25.5 is 12.5, 12 3/4 to the center. So we're just going to, this is our center mark. I'm just going to put a string on it, and we're just going to see what this looks like. So actually it wouldn't be a bad arch there. Now keep in mind, I mean, I don't have to have, I mean, even this flat area here is not a big deal because when I go to put my waterproofing around, it's going to be built up and I can kind of curve that a little bit. So these are basically the pieces that I need to make in the corners. So these little slivers here are what I need to make out of blocking. Cut these pieces off here. Got it? Okay, so this is what we'll basically create. Make 4 of these. Okay, so it's not 100% perfect, but we're going to be bending some of either this Kerdi board or drywall within there, so you'll be able to feather that out to make it round. So now we'll just cut our backer board around that. Yeah, that should look cool, huh? Okay, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna put drywall on this wall. I know that seems crazy in a shower, but we're gonna be using the Schluter membrane over everything. But even if you were to use Kerdi board, this is even more important. But with drywall, you know, any backer board, you just need to make sure that the wall is even with each other. So use like a 6-foot straight edge and just take a look at all your studs. Make sure that they're in line. And I wouldn't worry too much. I mean, you want to slope this, but by the time I build this up with the Kerdi band and everything, you'll have the slope that you need. So I wouldn't be overly concerned about that. Okay, so then on this, we're just gonna cut a bunch of lines about every 1/2 inch or so. And this is gonna allow us to curve this around. I'm gonna put sealant all in here. Now remember, I still got Kerdi band I have to wrap around all of this with thin set, so I still have time to adjust the curvature. You know, I can add more thin set underneath the Kerdi band when I get on this, and that'll make it a little bit more round if I wanted it to. So we're gonna have to address all these seams all the way around here. So let's get some thin set on here and trowel it out. And for the corners, you just want to cut a piece of membrane, read it in half, and we're going to fold it over like that, and you just have to put some thin set underneath that section. So we'll just use this as a template and take a 1/2 inch, maybe even 3/4 of an inch off all the way around this. Okay, so the first thing is I'm just taking a piece of my chair rail, and I'm just placing this so that I can have a laser, a reference to tell me what's level on this, rather than moving this around and putting a regular level on it. So in this instance, I'm just because it's just easier to see, I'm going on this first line. But basically my plan was to have everything overhung on the niche, and then I'll just build up all of my tile to meet up with the outside perimeter of this chair rail. Makes it a lot easier just to build this up with thin set and meet it, rather than making this too tight or putting the tile in first and then going around this. So we got this basically set where we want. It's going to be about 3/4 of an inch all the way around. Especially this archway, you definitely want this hanging down a bit. This is not exactly, perfect the way it's shaped. So you want to give yourself some flexibility and just basically build that up with thin set to meet up properly. Okay, so this is the same size as that opening. So the first thing I want to do is just trace this. Okay, so that's our opening. So let's get a straight edge on here. That will be a little bit smaller. So I would say about 5/8 of an inch smaller, because we want to make the perimeter of this all smaller so that we can have an overhang on that niche and then build up tile to the edge there. So we'll actually just make it 3/4 of an inch smaller. Gonna shrink it down a whole inch. Okay, so I did lose my audio there again, but yeah, just making sure that that is smaller than the actual size that the cutout was made. That's really important. So now the next process is basically taking that chair rail edging and creating a wood frame first, kind of templating what you're going to cut those actual chair rail pieces. So I basically got a piece of trim that I got from Home Depot that was matching the same width as my chair rail. So then I can just basically create the cuts to make that arch. Now, whatever size your arch is, it's going to be different as far as what the angles were to do that. It all depends on the shape of your arch as well. So this is going to take a little bit of time to cut, but then you just take that and then you just make all the pieces with your expensive chair rail. Definitely want to do it with wood before so that you can save money and then be able to do that. And then I just put a piece of Kerdi membrane down, and I'm going to be using that same template that we already have cut out and use that as my guide to basically butt up against all of that edging pieces too, and just kind of reduplicating what we had cut on the wet saw. So really, it's a time consuming process, but this is really the fastest way that I can see putting this into place on a shower niche with an arch. Really make sure that everything stays nice. Now this will be sitting overnight, and then we're going to be installing it. So first thing I want to do is cut out or remove my centerpiece here. So let me just score this. Go ahead and get thin set on this wall. So again, you want to use a Kerdi trowel for any of the Kerdi membrane adhesion. So this is going to be the main way that this gets adhered here. So ooh. Oh shit. All right, babe, come closer. Okay, so then just need to raise this up to our laser. Grab my knife. So make sure everything's level, obviously. It's not gonna look right. Still does need to be slightly pulled over. Make sure there's a thin set behind this. Now all of this will set up better once I get the insides in, and then I basically bond my tile on the inside to the outside of this. So, but as far as the cleanup goes on the edges of this, I would wait until everything's set tomorrow before you cut off and, you know, basically clean up the edges. There's a lot of thin sets still on the edges of these, but it's not a big deal. So just make sure you got thin set bonded to the fleece right at the corners. Okay, so I still got a little bit of movement here, kind of pitching out a little bit. So I might just get something to kind of hold that into place. Okay, so I'm just gonna put some shims here just to make sure that this stays even here. Tomorrow we'll clean up all the edges of this, but you need to let this set before even messing around with that. And then once I get the tile on the sides and I put more thin set against this, that'll really make sure that everything stays nice and tight. Okay, so we're using a 1/4 by 1/4 inch square notch trowel to embed these. So the first thing you want to do is just coat the whole back with the flat side of your trowel. It's called burning the thin set into the substrate. This will help get some good ridges and also make sure that you're well bonded to that substrate. Okay, so if you leave it in the plastic, there's not as much water, but you want to just make sure that you wipe off any of your mosaics if you get water on it, because otherwise they won't bond properly. Okay, so then let's just, before I fill in all these little pieces, I'm going to get the shelf in there. So let's just get their side pieces here. So 11 3/4. I mean, that's pretty damn close. I think I could live with that. Thin on top of these sides here. Okay, so then just make sure that this is pitching in, because if water hits this, you don't want it running back to the shelf, but it's already pitching good, and then we're level that way. So Okay, so to finish this off, I actually did run out of data space on my camera, so I at least had the GoPro up here. But to finish off the niche, basically just finishing those edges around the arch, and you're just basically matching the bottom radius length of those chair rails. So each one is incrementally placed underneath of the chair rail and then creating that archway. So it's a little bit tedious, and each one needs a little bit of an adjustment cut. But that's really the best way to go about cutting this for an archway. So thanks so much for watching this demonstration. I really hope it's helped you out with maybe contemplating doing a niche like this. I was really proud of this. I think this really looks sharp, and it's really worth the effort if you take the time to do something like this. It's something you'll appreciate in your bathroom for the rest of the time that you own your home. So please give me a like on this video, and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks so much.